Okay, so Germany's turn. A couple expected things, couple hopefully maybe kind of good things, and a couple of scary things. So here we go. So they attacked West Russia, which is what we expected and we knew, and so we're gonna have to drive into Moscow. Completely expected. Not much could have done to prevent that at this point. West Russia 5 is the normal timing for Germany in a KJF. Um, so still looking like G7, G8. G7 is getting tight, but I think we can beat it to buy myself one more turn. And it's going to make me do a move that might go, huh? To. And that's going to be the fact that with my transport in these free territories, I'm not going to take France. You know, it's the big one. It's a 6, right? But if I come down into C zone 6, and I'm going to take Norway instead. And I'm just going to take one infantry for it. One, he has to send a tank if he wants to take it this turn, which, tank going that way, great. Happy to have it. Even infantry going that way, that's one less or two less infantry going this way. So we're happy for him to send units that way instead of going towards Moscow. So that's a plus if he wants to go ahead and get it back. If he decides to ignore it, so be it. But the big key is I'm going to be building 2 fighters this turn to go on my carrier. A carrier sitting in C Zone 6, fighters go 1, 2, 3, 4 into Moscow. Fighters in C Zone 8, they can't reach Moscow. So the very next turn on UK 6, I'll be able to send those 2 fighters into Moscow for G7. So, and I just think those fighters are going to be necessary in all likelihood to help hold G7. So I think it's going to be worth it for A, distracting any troops coming towards Norway, and B, to be able to get the fighters in there. We're going to send this fighter this turn. So, you know, 6 or 7, I can load planes on and the next turn fly them to Moscow. Obviously, 6 lets us trade a couple places. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build 2 fighters. I want to get another transport going and start just trading it wherever we can. So I'm going to get a second transport up and running. I kind of debated on this because I do got 2 transports coming up this way already, and that'll give me 4 transports. And quite frankly, UK is going to be poor, And I'm actually, as I'm talking it through, I'm starting to kind of doubt myself because the reality is we're not going to be able to fill 6 units on transports in all reality. I mean, we got to have 6 units or 8 units, excuse me. You have to have 24 IPC per turn, and Africa is going to be a loss. These could be, but so we're going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of Africa from what we got currently as a minimum, and we're currently got 23. So it's going to go down to 15 plus whatever we trade. So the more I talk about it, actually, as I was getting ready to go, I think I'm going to talk myself right out of doing that transport, which actually makes me go back to a little bit of a riskier move I was kind of thinking about. And I'll explain that in a little bit. I want to make sure that we are able to pull it off, and that's going to be these 2 transports. Right now, if they stop in C Zone 12, this bomber can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the bomber can reach them. So sitting in 12 naked, they are a dead duck. So the next natural is to send them to 22 and 18, but then they're still yet a whole nother turn away from getting over there. Whereas I put my fleet here in C Zone 6, and he's got 4 fighters and a bomber. I was planning on sending the stack of destroyers, but if I just put 1 over there, that leaves it as a 50-50 and for 1 UK transport, and I'll put 2 destroyers back here in 12, and his bomber would have to take on 2 destroyers, which is more comfortable. Plus my US destroyers are closer to the US East Coast, which I like. So I think I'm gonna move 1 of them here because I'm just gonna have enough units there really for 2 transports anyways, and the second one will keep safe to dissuade any gambling because we need to come pick up this guy anyways. So the next turn he can go there while the one here can come in potentially to drop units down here. And that, of course, will depend on what G8, G9 is looking like, and if I need to stay in C-Zone 6 to send more fighters. So, a lot of explaining, but that's a lot of what's going through my head, and I, mid-discussion, I changed my mind as it's going through it. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and build another destroyer. We're going to need them eventually, because we know KJF endgame, or higher quality KJF endgame, I should say, involves a lot of German bombers, and he's played a pretty solid German game. So we're going to need it eventually, and that'll take this from being a 50-50 and make me more comfortable with only just sending one U.S. destroyer, or maybe even just keeping the 3 destroyers together. So we're going to go that route instead. Good thing I just talked this all through and changed my mind while we're playing. See online, he's watching me. I know he's had to wait to the last minute. I gotta get my timing. After work, I got a 10-hour work day, and then I officiate football games, and I gotta go straight from work to a football game, and that'll be another 2.5 hours of playing. Gotta be out there an hour and a half early, 2 hours of driving, so 6 hours. So I got a 16-hour day tomorrow, so it's important that, or Friday, excuse me, it's important I get my timing set on the gameplay. Anyways, all of that wouldn't need to know, but I just hope if Yellow Sub is watching, I am not intentionally stalling. I know I'm coming down to the last minute to take this turn, but that is why. The other thing I will say, he did transport more units down here so that he can more convincingly take Africa and burst into Africa, which is good again for Europe for me. The other thing too is we're on G5. He did not build any tanks. Tanks G5 in Berlin go 6, 7 into Moscow. So he's weakened his G7 by not having tanks built in Berlin this turn. So it'll be interesting to see what G6 looks like, especially as we start to have trading going on, how many ground he keeps back, and how much he just builds of the tanks. On the flip side, these guys that he already built, these 8 guys here, they could go 6, 7, 8, 9. They're really probably not needed for Moscow, so he can keep them back to trade in all likelihood, unless I can miraculously push him back to a G9, which would just be great. Which, again, normally I'd say seeing US 4 with 2 factories on islands as a good thing. But this game's a little bit different. So the scary thing here is that Suez is open, right? So whether he brings his German fleet to his Japan or his Japan fleet to German, if he combines these fleets, it's going to be painful somewhere. If I was him, because the U.S. and Japan are essentially at a stalemate, so he's only really bringing in 3 new units, where I've already got these 3 plus a 4 build coming in, so he's at a loss. It's going to be deadly if he takes Japan to C-Zone 17. If he takes Japan to C-Zone 17, that means they're coming out the Atlantic, and I'm going to be in some difficult times once again. Not that I haven't been in difficult times yet, so. Alright. I think we're going to go ahead, try to secure a little bit of income for UK and see if we can win the 50-50-ish 2v1. And I think that's going to be all our attacks. Come on, UK income. Yeah, all right. That's fine. So, and yes, I mean, he can send his fighter over here to clear that, but then you have to bring him, stack 37 or something. So, don't know that he wants to go that route. Now, that a UK transport with 1 infantry is probably not that threatening to him, or at least it wouldn't be if I was him, so I would not be too worried about that. But let's see, where we're going to go. So I am just keeping the sub up here because eventually we are going to have to worry about keeping the sea lion knocked out, and we're going to need to watch out for these guys coming here, so I'm just going to have this sub hanging out here with them. I am going to plug the 1 in here. I debate about leaving it open. Putting 1, sure, it blocks the two German tanks from blitzing right down, but all he has to do is send 1 Japan transport to take it. But if he does that, he either has to leave it open here for my bomber to take, or he has to look at combining his fleets in 34, which is 1 step further away from getting to the Atlantic, and I'll be happy about that. So either he gives me the transport or not, and 1 transport is probably going to go to Philippines. So, you know, maybe 1 transport ends up coming back here to Australia. Or actually Madagascar, I guess. So, anyways, if he wants to take it with Japan, I'm glad to have him leave a Japan transport in 34. Otherwise, if he doesn't, that means the Germans have to stop here for a turn before they start, you know, working their way through. And hopefully we'll have the UK reinforcement and maybe eventually some, or US reinforcement, UK reinforcement. Alright, we got them moved, got him up, got them switched. Got him coming over. He's oh, these guys, there we go. Not gonna need all of them up there. I'm bring them. Nah, we're gonna let the Russians take care of the Japan, I think. My thought process here is if he does a 2v1 to try to clear that, then this one either goes here or here, and then my UK unit could do the opposite. I think I'm just gonna send the 1 infantry there. We got a decent stop this next round, so he can always just turn around and walk back in. And I don't think he wants to take a tank to him. I may be wrong. Anyways, small things. We're just going to go with it. Ah, son of a gun. Forgot to move the fighter to Moscow. Again, it won't be so much important this turn, but that's 1 less fighter defending on G8. Because on 6 he'll come here. Yeah, so these 2 will go over on UK 6. He'll come here, go over UK 7. So I guess he'll make it there for 8. It's 1 less for 9. Anyways, it's 1 less speed-wise, because I was going to drop 2 a turn. Frustration. Anger. Alright, let it go. Alright, well there you go. I talked too much and then made a goof. We'll see you back for US turn, see what Japan does.